Hi friends, this is Carrie from Stamp with CT. I want to welcome you to our Friday Finding Inspiration video. So happy to have you here, and I'm excited to share another fun project with you. I have a sample for you, and then we'll be creating a project as well. So in the month of March 2022, we are using card sketches to help spark our creativity. We want to spend our time crafting. We don't want to spend our time necessarily trying to come up with a design, reinventing the wheel. There are card sketches out there that show us just the basics, and we can always add our spin to it. So if you're struggling in that area, or if you just need a little time saver and you want to craft, pull out a card sketch and go from there. Just something that really speaks to you. So this is the sketch that we are using today, and I think that I told you last week, you do not have to do everything exactly like the sketch shows. So here, you have a card, you've even got measurements to the different elements. You don't have to do exactly what's shown here. You can just use this as your jumping off point. For example, here's a circle sentiment, but if you have another die cut, if you have a punched image that you want to use, that would be fine. You can always move your sentiment up. So lots of things that you can do. This is really just meant to get things going and get you crafting. So let me just share with you the sample that I have today. As you can see, I'm using this sketch. So I have got the outside card base, and then I've got the layer. So this piece of mint macaron striped paper. Then I've got this floral piece that covers here. I chose not to use this strip that could have been cardstock or another designer series paper. I wanted to pull in a textural element and use this beautiful wide mint macaron ribbon. Then I did choose to go ahead with a circle sentiment, and I just matted it with mint macaron cardstock to help that really stand out. Then I added my beautiful iridescent rhinestones that I love to finish this off, and it's a sweet and simple card. So this is a great layout, a great sketch to use with paper that you love both sides of. So many times that happens to us, and we don't want to have to add adhesive to one side and glue it down. We just love the paper so much. So this is a great way to really show both sides. So this is the hand-pinned designer series paper. It's found in our annual catalog, and it is just lovely. Beautiful colors. Highland Heather, Pale Papaya. I think we've got Garden Green in there. You've got Basic Black, your Mint Macaron. And it's just so very pretty. Let me make sure I didn't leave out any colors. Blushing Bride. Oh, Cinnamon Cider as well. Daffodil Delight is the yellow. So lots of fun with this paper. It's beautiful, and both sides are just so pretty and easy to work with. So you've got more muted tones on one side, and then that decorative floral side of each of those papers. So it's so fun to use for a layout like this. Let's go ahead and create a card. I'm going to do something just a little bit different on this same card sketch, but with some different colors. So I do have a Highland Heather card base, and it is 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4. And then I have a piece of that beautiful paper. Let me grab some glue, and we are just going to, before I adhere that down though, I want to grab my ribbon. So I'm pulling in this Pale Papaya ribbon on this card. And I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm actually going to bring it all the way around my designer series paper, and I'm going to tie a knot. I think that will be a really pretty accent. So again, our sketch shows us a border of maybe cardstock or another designer series paper, which of course would be beautiful. But I just thought having a couple of these pretty ribbons that I could add would be nice. So let's snip off the ends there. Now I will tell you, with this Pale Papaya ribbon, it does have a bit of a tendency to fray, which can be very pretty and add even more texture. Get that situated the way I want it. And I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella. I learned this trick from my friend Janet Wakeland. Oop, I didn't do a very good job of cutting that off. Let's try that again, get a little better edge to it. Let me see about, that one looks okay. So I'm just going to take my Wink of Stella and I'm going to brush it across the edges where I cut the ribbon. Just seals that up a bit and helps encourage it not to fray. So it is clear, so no one's gonna know. It's just a little trick that I learned, and I love passing on tips to you that help with our crafting. So certainly, if you have a great tip to share, I would love to see it. Just drop it in the comments for me. Okay, finish up with that Wink of Stella. Now I want to adhere this to my card front, and I want to make sure that I come up far enough with my ribbon that I'll be able to add my sentiment. I may come up even just a tiny bit more. I think turning it over to the back might actually help me get it a little bit straighter too. Okay, let's adhere this down. Put some on either side of the ribbon. Keep that in place. And we're just going to add this beautiful piece of Designer Series paper to our card front. It already looks lovely. Designer Series paper can just really make you look like a card making rock star, which you are, but it can really make creating easy. Okay. Now let's bring in another piece of that Designer Series paper, and this is just the B side of that pattern. I'm going to place it here, but I want to use dimensionals to add that to our card front. Just because I've got that ribbon there, and that will help, I think, make all that lay a little bit flatter if I pop up on both ends. Plus, a little dimension never hurts, does it? So we'll get those backings off our dimensionals. Love, love, love dimensionals. Isn't it funny how something so little can make you so happy? And we'll bring this over to the side and just add it to the side of our card. Just want to make sure I've got it about even. And this piece of paper is 4 inches by 2 inches, the second piece of Designer Series paper. Just trying to make sure I get it lined up pretty well. Okay, I think I like that. That Pale Papaya ribbon is really pretty. Okay, let's go with that. Now, I have already done my stamping, and the reason that I did is I wanted to just elevate this card a bit by embossing the sentiment this time. I was going to show you the stamp sets too. So I like to use a technique that I learned from Jennifer McGuire, who's a fabulous paper crafter you can find on YouTube. You can use black embossing powder, and our Stampin' Up! Embossing powders are just amazing. But I really like stamping black sentiments with StazOn ink and embossing with clear embossing powder. And I'll bring that close where you can really see the dimension that you get when you do it that way. So this sentiment comes from an amazing stamp set called Color and Contour. Love the font. It's such a beautiful sentiment as well. Beautiful message. So all I did was on a piece of basic white cardstock, I stamped the image with StazOn. Now I did use my Stamparatus because I'm going to go back over the sentiment image with Versamark. So I stamped the image with black, clean my stamp, stamp it over the black with the Versamark, and I apply clear embossing powder. Then I heat set that until it is shiny and melted. And while it is still warm, I come back in and I add another layer of clear embossing powder. And I do that a couple of times. You can do that 3 or 4 times total, and you will just be amazed at what that does to lift that sentiment, and it just makes it so bold and so pretty. I'll never go back to using just embossing powder. Now you can do that same thing if you're using silver embossing powder or gold. You can do several layers of it. You just add more embossing powder while it's still warm after you have heat set it. You do have to be careful that you don't burn your paper, but you just keep adding that clear embossing powder or more layers of gold or silver, whatever you're using, and it just makes it so pretty. Now this sentiment's a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna have to change my positioning just a tiny bit. But oh, I love the fact that you've got the outline of the images in black with this designer series paper, and it really helps that sentiment to pop, and it brings those flowers out in the paper. Love that. So I really enjoy using these rhinestones. You guys know that. If you know me, you know I'm loving these iridescent rhinestones. And I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of color to them. So I've brought in my Highland Heather Stampin' Blends marker. And on a couple of these rhinestones, I've already added a couple of layers of Highland Heather, dark Highland Heather ink. Now when you're coloring embellishments, and really any time you're using your Stampin' Blends, you want to be careful with the tip so that you keep that intact. And I mean, it can serve you for a long time if you take good care of your markers. So just adding some ink, and again, you can add several layers of ink. And it's going to add a subtle color, but I think it's still going to add a little bit of a difference as far as the color. So I'm excited to see how my Highland Heather rhinestones, my custom rhinestones here, are going to coordinate with my project. I think they're going to look really pretty. So we will just sprinkle them on. I think I definitely want to come down here with one, since I've got a little bit more room where I stamped my sentiment on a little bit larger circle. And then we'll bring one right over here as well. Okay, project finished. I think it turned out really pretty, y'all. I love it. I hope you do too. So very simple to create something beautiful. And I'll go back in and add an inside panel to that as well, so that it'll make it a little bit easier for me to write my message on the inside. But I think this turned out really pretty. Make a great birthday card. This would even be a very pretty layout if you're making Christmas cards. Beautiful for Easter cards as well. Just so many options for our crafting. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, if you found the content helpful and you learned some tips, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends, and I will be back next Friday to help you find inspiration again. Thank you.